This is another one of the Dash 2 season preview episodes. Today we have the Boston Bruins. This is the second of the 32 NHL teams that we are going to do a preview on. If you missed yesterday's, the Anaheim Ducks are live. We are going in alphabetical order. So let's get into it. The Boston Bruins finished 7th in the NHL, second in their division last year. With a record of 47, 20, and 15. That is good for 109 points. The remaining cap space that the Boston Bruins have after all of their offseason moves so far, $8.636 million. Their GM, Don Sweeney, is going into his 9th year as the general manager of the Boston Bruins. That blows my fucking mind. And the coach is Jim Montgomery. He is going into year 3 of being the Boston Bruins head coach. So far, under Jim Montgomery, the Bruins have done incredibly well. They have set the NHL all-time record for best record and most points, as well as finishing second in their division last year and making it to the second round of the playoffs. We will not talk about the playoffs of his first year. That was incredibly depressing, and I never wanted to revisit that for the rest of my life. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Last year, leading the team in points. Take a guess. Who do you think? David Pastrnak. 47 goals, 63 assists, 110 points. He is the closest thing to saving me I have ever had in my entire life. This man saves me from suicide. Probably weekly. You know, when I have nothing and I'm like, damn, the Bruins are going to suck. You know what I think about? I think about Pasta sitting, ripping that 1T on the power play, going absolute top titty. I think about Pasta getting 4 points while I'm in attendance and bet the fucking house on him to have the over on shots and points and goals and first-time goal scorer and all that bullshit. He is the closest thing that the Bruins have to God. And he will remain that way. Now we're going to move on to like a little bit more depressing stuff. Brad Marchand is starting to slow down a bit. And it pains me to mention it because he's getting up there in age. How old is Marchand? Let's fucking take a little gander here. Brad Marchand is currently 36 years old. Holy fuck, he's getting up there. It was announced today that in the offseason he had 3 surgeries performed. One that was on an elbow. What were the other ones? Oh my god, I'm so wildly unprepared right now. 3 off-season surgeries. He had a torn tendon in his elbow, a groin issue, and an abdominal issue after having his hips rebuilt last year. So, a lot of surgeries while you're getting older is never really a good thing. So, we're going to keep that in mind as we progress into this next season, because I think he might be a prime candidate for regression. I mean, obviously, he had 67 points last year, so that's still pretty good by most of the NHL. But for an elite guy such as himself, a former 100-point player, it's a little depressing to see him start to slow. Unfortunately, Ullmark is now gone. He was traded off in the offseason for a man named Kastelik, who's a tough motherfucker that will beat the shit out of you on the 4th line of the Ottawa Senators, now on the 4th line of the Boston Bruins. Jonas Korpisalo, who is a overpaid, washed-up loser, who the Bruins should have made them retain 50% of, so they would have an extra $1 million to make a move. However, they did not. And then a 2024 first-round pick. So that leaves us with Jeremy Swayman. So Sway, last year, 44 games, a record of 25, 10, and 8. He had a 2.53 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. In the playoffs, he was out of his fucking mind. He played 12 games. He went 6-6. He had a 2.15 goals against average and a .933 save percentage. He was fucking out of body in the playoffs. He was by far the best goalie in the playoffs, and it wasn't even close. With that being said, he is currently an RFA. Last year went to arbitration, got a shitty contract. I think it was a 1-year, $3 million deal. He is rumored to be seeking $10 million. Realistically, I don't know if he actually is or not. I feel like that's a crazy ask. The only goalies that are making that are Bob and Shesty. Well, Shesty wants it. He hasn't signed it yet, but that's what he's looking for as well. Vasilevsky is making 10 million. Like, I think he's making 9. So even fucking Hellebuck, who won the Vezina last year, he's only making 8. And he's had Vezinas. He's had a longer career. He's had success. And he definitely did not have a goalie tandem that was doing just as well as he was. The Swayman thing. I'm all for players getting paid. I'm also for realistic comparisons and realistic contracts. I've been a Boston Bruins fan. I've been a fucking loser of a Boston Bruins fan for 12 years now. In the 12 years of me being a Bruins fan, it was obviously when right before, obviously I watched Tim Thomas play. So we had Tim Thomas, Tuukka Rask. That was a pairing. Then we had Tuukka Rask, Anton Khudobin. Khudobin, obviously, when he went to the Stars, he fucking pushed Bishop out of the net and then took that job. So that's a very good backup to have. Then we move on. We fucking brought in Eric Gustafsson for that 1 year. He was a former Sabres goalie. He did a great job in that. Then we had Yaroslav Halak for like 5 years. And the Bruins were doing 1A, 1B with Yaro and fucking Tuukka. And Yaro was incredible. And then, we let Yaro walk. And then Sway signs late in the year. I think we still had Halak at that point. So we had Halak for a fucking fat amount of time. And then Tuukka retires. We bring in Sway and Ullmark. Like, Sway's up for the full year, except for that one game that Tuukka played in which he died again. But Ullmark had a pretty solid season for a first-year goalie with a new team. Sway had a good season as well. And then the next year, Ullmark wins the Vezina. Swayman does a great job in net. They set the record. Last year, they split the job. Both have very good records. Both have very good save percentages. At a certain point, is it the goalies that we're bringing in, or is it the defensive structure of the team? Because if you're going on 10 years, 12 years of having great goaltending and being able to contend for playoffs every single season without a drop-off in, starting goaltender and backup goaltender, I don't know if it's the goalies at this point. I think the Bruins' culture is to play defensively and play smart. I think Patrice Bergeron being here for as long as he was a fucking great telling sign. A lot of players have learned from him on how to play responsibly defensively. I think it shows that the Bruins are just a defensive-minded team. I don't know if it's Swayman. Because if Ullmark's doing the same thing with the same numbers and winning Vezinas, and then Swayman comes in and he's doing the same shit, why the fuck do you deserve $10 million? Like the Bob thing, he got $10 million because he was on the free agent market and Florida had a shit ton of cap space. It looked ugly for a long time before he, justified his contract, which is the last 2 years. And at that point, he signed after, I think he signed 2020. So it took him 4 years to, really truly earn that $10 million cap hit. Vasilevsky had cups. He had Vezinas. There was nothing for him to earn. He earned that money. He deserves to be paid that much. Connor Hellebuck, $8 million and for the best regular season goalie and a guy who's had the resume. He's done good for a long time. That makes sense to me. You should be getting paid $8 million. His comparables are like Jake Ottinger and Thatcher Demko, these younger guys that haven't done it for a long time. These guys have not gotten deals yet. Swayman's going to be the first one to get a deal. The Bruins have $8.6 million left. The Bruins are a strong proponent of, if you want to win here, sign team-friendly deals. They kind of threw that out the window with the McAvoy contract. He makes $9.5 million. And same with the Pasta contract. He makes $11 million. Well, when you're scoring 110 points, you should probably be making, a fucking 100. You should be making $11 million. Charlie McAvoy, $9.5 million. One of the best defensive defensemen in the league. if you do watch him a lot, he does fuck up a lot. But I mean, on paper, he's a really good defensive defenseman. And as well, he puts the puck in the net. 47 points last year. He was 5th on the team in points. So that's important to note. Sway has 2 seasons under his belt. Pretty good resume. But within that same time, as I've already mentioned, Linus Ullmark has the same resume. So I'm not impressed. I don't think he deserves $10 million. I think you should take the 8x8 that they're offering you, and you should be happy with that. And I especially don't like a player going into the media talking about their contract situation and then being a fucking pussy about it. And I was like, I've done the research. I've looked at my comparables. I know the kind of player that I can be. I understand it's a business. Like, shut the fuck up. 8x8 coming off what is this? Well, it's technically not the ELC, but you're like 1 year removed from your ELC. Take the fucking deal. 8x8 is good. I don't care if the cap's going up in the next couple of years. The Bruins have $8 million. You're either going to sign 8x8 or you're going to not play this year. And if you don't want to play this year, you're going to get a shit deal next year because then you're like, well, we don't know how good you are. So you want to fuck around and find out, that's fine by me. But there is no reason why he should be making that much money. Free agency. The Bruins had a shit ton of free agency money. I think it was like roughly around $30 million or so. Actually, it was probably close to like 24. But with that money, they decided to address positional needs. That is Elias Lindholm at the center position, 29-year-old Swedish center. Played for the Calgary Flames 4 years with Johnny Gaudreau, where he had great years, 90-point seasons, very strong defensively, and two-way game, penalty killer. He did great. Moved over to Vancouver, struggled in the regular season, really came alive in the playoffs. The Bruins have signed him to a $7.5 million deal. Seems a little steep. I guess we'll see how he plays with Pasta first before we make any judgments. He did it once with the Flames, so he could be a useful player. I think that is a very high term and a very long amount of time to sign him to that, but that is the free agency rate. And I feel like the Bruins will probably be fucked by this. This is the David Backes deal that we signed in 2015, and it's going to fuck us in the ass by the time I'm 32. But I'll worry about that when I'm 32. I like the deal for now. We're a contender, opens up the window a little bit more. I like it. Nikita Zadorov, 29-year-old defenseman, 6-year, $5 million deal. Absolute overpay. He is a tough defenseman, will beat the fuck out of you, is very outspoken. Whether or not he should be is another question. Last year, 6 goals, 14 points, 14 assists for 20 points. Fuck me. He can do it both ways a little bit. I think he's best suited as a bottom pair, hardcore defenseman guy. I think if you pair him up with Lindholm, that'll be nice because Lindholm's a little more offensive. Where I would really like to see him is if you put him on a bottom pair with Mason Lohrei and Nikita Zadorov. That gives Lohrei the freedom to wheel. That gives him protection with a big, tough idiot with him. The next move, Max Jones, 26-year-old winger, 2-year, $1 million deal, pretty low stakes, definitely going to play on the fourth line. Last year, 52 games played, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. It's like the Patrick Brown guy that we signed last year. You're just going to throw him in the lineup. Jordan Osterley has been around the league, 27 years old at this point. He's played for a bunch of teams, played for the Blackhawks for a while. Bottom pair defenseman. He might get thrown into a couple games here and there. He's mostly going to play in Providence, most likely. The Bruins also signed Riley Tufte, 26-year-old winger. Spent the early part of his career with Colorado. Last year he played in the AHL for the most part, 67 games there, 23 goals, 33 assists for 45 points. That usually means that he could play a pretty solid offensive role in the NHL. However, that would probably be in the bottom 6 role. I think he's best case you put him, if you're in a really bad spot, you put him on the third line. But I think he's more of a Jesper Boquist kind of guy where you just speedy, skilled guy that you put on the fourth line. So, pretty solid moves by the Sweenius. Outgoing, we have the playoff point leader in Jake DeBrusk. That motherfucker had 13 games played, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. However, in the regular season, he had 40 points in 80 games, which makes him a certified loser. And the fact that the Canucks signed him to a gigantic deal, I think it was a 7-year, $5.5 million, is fucking crazy to me. And the reason why it's crazy to me is because Danton Heinen, who played the same amount of games as Jake DeBrusk, he had 36 points. He played third line all year, and DeBrusk was playing third line, second line, fucking first line. He was all over the place. Heinen had 36 points. He signs a 2-year, $2 million deal. How the fuck does that make any sense? He had 4 less points, but yet he gets $3 less million than Jake DeBrusk. Don't understand. Derek Forbort, Manchester United legend, he is going off to Vancouver as well. He had a tough year last year. He didn't play a lot. He was very injured. His dog died. R.I.P. Darla. Sorry for you. Matt Grzelcyk, Bruins draft pick. Dad works for the Bruins. He has been shit-canned and sent off to John Henry and the Pittsburgh Penguins so he can ask his owner about why he's killing the Red Sox. Fat Pat is off to Chicago. Jesper Boquist off to Florida. Anthony Richard off to Philadelphia. Lucic went full handlebar and beat the shit out of his wife. So he is now trying to come back to the NHL. We don't support domestic abuse. As much as you were my first favorite player in the NHL, we don't like that. So you're probably not going to play again. Kevin Shattenkirk, still an unsigned free agent. Very surprised by that. And more surprising is UNH legend JVR is also a unsigned free agent. The Bruins are ranked 30th in prospects. That's tough. But there's a couple bright spots. Matthew Poitras last year, or Potra, if you really want to get real. Potts is kind of all we're gonna call him. 20 years old, center. Last year played in the NHL, 33 games, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. Was a very surprising player out of camp. Really made some noise in the preseason. Wears Ryan Spooner's former number, which is a bad omen in my eyes. But he made some strides, played for the World Juniors, got injured. That's tough. But we like him. And, if we could move Charlie Coyle to second-line winger, I'd like that. But I think they're going to leave winger. They're going to leave Charlie in the center role. I think Poitras probably deserves to get a look at the third-line center role. Maybe swing Geeky over to the wing and swing Freddie over to the wing. I like that. Potts is very responsible defensively. I'd like to see him get a full season under his belt. The main point of contention here is the second-line winger role, and that is going to come down to Fabian Lysell and Georgi Merkulov. Both of the guys went nutty in Providence last year. Lysell is 21, so a little bit younger. He was a guy who dropped in his draft year, and the Bruins were able to pick him up. Last year in the AHL, he lit it up before he got a concussion. 56 games played, 15 goals, 35 assists, 50 points. And a guy that he was playing with, Georgi Merkulov, he is a center, a natural-born center. That means he needs to play center. I don't see him playing wing. He had 67 games played, 30 goals, 35 assists, 65 points. He played at Ohio State with good old Mason Lohrei. So he's familiar with him. Maybe we see him make the roster. It's going to be tough if he's going to play wing. I don't really see how that works. It is important to note that Charlie Coyle can't play wing. I've already mentioned it, but I would really like to see him just move. I think he'd be a really strong winger as far as puck possession, and if he's caught back, he's a center, he can figure it out. But they don't pay me the big bucks. Dean Letourneau, 18-year-old, Tage Thompson comparison, 6'7", going to BC next year. He played prep last year, 56 games played, 61 goals, 66 assists for 127 points. That's pretty sick. But most tall guys never really work out. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited to see how his freshman year goes. Probably not going to go well. The Bruins have 0 assets and 0 wiggle room, so I don't think that there's going to be any trades going on. Hopefully they don't trade Swayman. That would fucking boggle my mind. I'm sure they won't. We already talked about the second line. Winger needs. I would love to see them throw a PTO at somebody. Maybe JVR, throw him a PTO. He can come back. Fucking Blake Wheeler, I guess. I don't really want him to come back. The defense is set. We have a very solid defense. Hampus, Charlie, Andrew Peak, Nikita Zadorov, Mason Lohrei. I'm 100% forgetting somebody. Who was the other dude? Oh, Parker Wotherspoon, pretty good last year. Osterley's probably going to compete a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I do think that, the prospects are probably not going to work out. I always have a little bit more optimism for them because I'm a Bruins fan. But, Studnicka resulted in nothing. Alexander Koklachev, if you're a longtime Bruins fan, you'll remember that motherfucker. And that did not end up going anywhere. So, all of those prospects that I mentioned will probably not work out. Maybe Potts. I hope Potts will. He shows promise. But that left wing spot is something that's going to, or second line right wing is going to be something that I'm concerned about going into the season. I do believe the Bruins will probably make the playoffs yet again. They lost a lot of goals on paper, but I think bringing in Lindholm is going to be a huge help. And then who knows, maybe one of these rookies can pop off. I'd like to see it. So I see them contending for like third in the division, maybe a wild card spot, worst case. I like the moves. Good job, Sweeney. We'll see how you do yet again, Monty. You've been, surprising me since you've taken over. So let's hope you can do it again. That is it for this team breakdown. A little bit longer, obviously, because I fucking love the Boston Bruins. So we will see you guys tomorrow for the Buffalo Sabres. Please like, subscribe, watch the Anaheim one, watch the Buffalo one tomorrow. I got Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, which I've already mentioned. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Whatever is your preferred way to listen. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.